at present, you go from Van Gisbergen back to Mostert, and that's 37 seconds. We know that it takes 35 seconds on average to get in and out of the pits, plus the stationary time. If you do it really well, we saw a 3.3 yesterday. So that's 38.3 seconds. Yeah. So clearly, Mostert's got an undercut benefit going here at the moment. But that means that McLaughlin, who is 38.8 seconds off the lead, is going to be right with Van Gisbergen. Mark Larkham.
So, guys, just for your viewing pleasure, Fabian Coulthard's and Scott McLaughlin's tyres have just come off, so they look fine. But Scafey, you picked up about the locking up of the wheel. Really good pickup, pal, because I was watching it yesterday. Right here, when they come down, both these boys lock their brakes up. And if you have a look here, there's the marks right there. So 1-2 metres of lock up, so that wheel's locked, and then bang, and look at that, look where they stop, exactly on the mark. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Like, and it's obviously low grip, and they practice it so that when they've got the wheel locked there, it just makes it easier to get that rattle gun straight on. So beautiful job, well explained, Lucko.
These guys have been in combat after the pit stop, really neck and neck. So this is a tremendous exchange between the Kiwis, and Heimgartner responds nicely. In fact, they make a little bit of awkward contact down there, but he gets it done. So Fabian on the run down to turn 1. Then the crisscrosses on. Andre comes up the inside, forces the issue through 2. Now he's got a bit of track position into 3, but he bombs him in that process. Clunk. They both get checked up, and then out the other side. Here's the view from the other car. Turns in, gets the throttle early. Now he's up on the wrong side of the road. Stays with it. But when he fed it first gear, he just locked the brakes. You saw the lock lights on. Pops out the other side. Off the back of that, Andre's 14th and Fabian's 15th, and they live to fight another day.
Water's slithering all over the place. It's a river of water out there at the moment.
And this man used to be very good at it, Jamie Whincup. He'll be looking at his 2 charges. Now, Brock Feeney's trying the outside go-kart line because we spoke about the circuit rubbering up. Where you get rubber on the racing line, down the inside. Anton gets it done. This is turn 13. Right round the outside is Van Gisbergen, who was disappearing off the road. That was Courtney, wasn't it?
They were almost 3 wide at one point there in the right-hander at 13. Di Pasquale under the attack at the moment. Waters clutching to the lead. He's back in it once more. Van Gisbergen gets up. Brock Feeney having a huge lunge down the inside. And Anton checked up. He's really having trouble getting these tyres to connect at the moment. Waters is under assault. He dives to the right. The crisscrosses on from Van Gisbergen. He covers. Look at Feeney down the inside, battling for 3rd. You need to look in every direction at the moment. Now, is there a change for the lead? Does Van Gisbergen get up the inside? Yes, but does he carry too much speed into that final corner?
Yes.
The crisscross coming out the other side now for Waters. Here we go, it's a drag race down the front straight. Waters comes back one more time.
This is remarkable skill, folks. These are the best drivers of these sorts of cars in the world, have not driven in the wet all weekend, have not even thought about how wild these conditions are, can't see, and they are turning it on. This is fantastic.
And giving each other racing room when you can barely see where you're going yourself, let alone affording somebody some space on the outside. Waters on top one more time. Feeney, I beg your pardon, Van Gisbergen, then Feeney, then Di Pasquale. Anton looked like he was really battling. Check it out. This is what it looks like from Brock's car. And if you're further back in that pack, it's just shocking. So if you go back to 15th, they're 10 seconds behind.
Yep, already.
And that's largely due to a lack of visibility. Yep. Here we go again. It's a carbon copy. One more time, we've got Van Gisbergen trying to get power to the ground. This is what it looks like from onboard Shane's car.
Gee, that was close.
Nothing out the rear view mirror.
Who's that?
Van Gisbergen.
Let me know, I can let him go.
He's saying, I'll let him go. I can't see anything out the rear view mirror. He knows that Brock's lurking, but he's got no idea where. It ends up being a case of braille sometimes. You can literally feel the other car bumping into the rear bumper and down the side. So he has another nibble down the inside here. High intensity rain lights are the only thing you can sometimes see when you're in the following car. Waters covers. Van Gisbergen a little bit higher and wider. It looks like there's some pace coming again now to Anton Di Pasquale's car. I reckon those tyres didn't come up for the first lap or two, Mark.
Absolutely. So there'll be some disparity in what the teams decided to do regarding the initial tyre pressures and therefore when they stop. So how you get the pressure and temperature to build up when the conditions are like this, almost impossible. The other thing that's a big factor, and it's spooky brave, is that if you're right behind the car in front, you're okay, because you're in the aero wash. Just like that, you can see. But if you're back one car length, you can't see.
So getting out of the plume is what Mark's talking about there. Out of that final corner at 18, the shift lights are illuminating. So he sits in behind the rear wing. He'll have a think about pulling out the other end, but then when you do it, you're out of the tracks. It's slipperier on the inside when you get down here. And have a look at Feeney. That's all about visibility. That's the reason why he's poked the nose there. So 0.2 of a second officially is the margin. Waters over Van Gisbergen. 0.8 of a second from Waters to Feeney, and we're focused here on Courtney and Mostert. Those guys battling for 6th and 7th.
Good gains by Brodie Kostecki and Mark Winterbottom. Both of them are 2 and 3 spots up, so those are the 2 cars that just went through your shot there. James Golding's also done a very nice job. He's up 3 positions. So there's the field for you. And you'll start to see some divergent lines. The problem that you have when you start to be a pioneer and go out wide or do a different line. And here we go, up the inside. Can he get the nose of it made? No. I thought he was going to try to force his way down the inside as you go over the brow for 7 and 8.
Great skill, great delicate touch. We're looking at top-class operators, as Mark described before, and there's nothing between the top 4. And Waters is the pioneer that Mark described a moment ago, and he's slipping and sliding everywhere, and now Van Gisbergen tries to round him up in another direction, runs wide in the process. He may lose a spot to his teammate, and he has. Brock Feeney jumps up 1 spot in the process.
That move around the outside, he ended up getting the painted curve, Neil. And as soon as it burst into wheel spin, it almost made it into the grass. So a significant error at that point there for Van Gisbergen. He's going to try to sneak his way back down the inside of his young teammate.
And Brock is using classic wide go-kart lines at the moment, searching for anything on the track that resembles grip.
Fastest car on the track is James Golding. He's 1 second faster than the leaders on the last lap.
Hazelwood said he took out LeBrock on the radio a moment ago. What a race. So, 0.2 of a second is the official margin between these two, between Waters and Van Gisbergen. And what skill. Dancing these cars off their fingertips. Driving in the wet in these conditions is not about physicality, it's about mental capacity. And when you get to the end of these races, particularly the long ones in these sorts of wet conditions, you are mentally destroyed.
Totally.
Because the difficulty involved in trying to sense everything that Mark was talking about. Jordan Boys off the road, one of the wild cards between 14 and 15. Brought up what little dust there is around the edges. LeBrock off one more time. This gives us an indication of how crazy slippery it is out there at the moment.
And Cam Waters has been the guy at the front for the majority of this event, has had to lead the way. And that is immensely hard. You don't know how much grip you've got. As I said before, using all your sensory perception to try to understand what goes on and how much grip you've got.
See what Shane did then. He leant on the front tyre. He was completely clear of the throttle at turn 3. And he was actually, how's the amount of water on the screen and how slippery that thing looks at turn 5. So he snow-ploughed those front tyres through 3. And he's also searching high and low at the moment to try and get some visibility, and he's in search of grip. Actually, let's just wind this up. Hold on, Shane. Wind this up and enjoy it, folks, because this is supreme.
To all teams, 15-second time penalty to car 25 for a driving infringement.
Whoa. Did he get him? He did. We're enjoying the onboard, but we need to get back to the description here because another change. In the meantime, there was a penalty in the background for Chaz Mostert. So how slippery was that thing out there? Watching over the left shoulder of Van Gisbergen. Waters is not done. He's going to get back down the inside. This is unbelievably great motor racing between these guys. There is nothing in it. The drivers are matched, the cars are matched, and Di Pasquale's in this as well. 3 cars, 3 different drivers, 3 different engineering and performance groups, different performance levels typically across these groups, and look at how close these cars are. They are maximised at the moment.
Just trying to drive it now, Van Gisbergen in the wheel track of the car in front. He chose not to fire down the inside. That's what he just did. Instead of going down the inside on the part of the road that didn't have any grip, he drove it in the wheel tracks, and he come onto the straight better than Cam Waters.
Lost it in, and he'll take that stop early, because the earlier he takes it, the less impact the 15 seconds has. Exchange continues now through 2 and 3. Waters is up the inside of Van Gisbergen. This is an epic motor race. Absolutely nothing between them. They're searching high and low for grip. Either one of these guys in the lead blinks, then Anton's going to grab the lead. So they'll make the change now for the wheels and tyres on this car, and then they've got to hold him for 15 seconds in accordance with those rules. Waters on top one more time.
This is one of the best wet weather motor races I've ever seen. Unbelievable skill.
13, 14.
And this battle, Van Gisbergen and Waters especially, the racecraft and the respect that they've shown, they've not made contact, given each other racing room.
And all three of them, regardless of whether they end up first, second or third or somewhere else, they'll revel in this. They'll talk about it afterwards. That was so much fun. They're in front of their cars. They're on top of their cars. They know and understand them. They can feel everything in all four corners constantly. They've worked out the grip levels now. We got a report a moment ago from Garth Tander that it's even wetter down there. It's been raining harder. But these guys are now completely in tune with what's going on. So it is maximum attack. And don't discount James Courtney. He's only 3.2 seconds from the lead. And you'll see glimpses of him in the background. So anybody spills it in the first group, and he'll be right there as well.
James Golding up 6 positions. A little while ago, he was a second faster than the front guys. In fact, his fastest time is a 9.9. It's better than Cam Waters with a 10 dead. Will Brown's done the fastest lap of the race with a 9.08. He's back in 5th, so don't discount him either.
After an excursion.
Yeah.
And the bonus points still apply. Doesn't matter about the wet conditions, so at the moment that would be a provisional additional 5 points for Will Brown. So it's momentarily brighter out there on that shot as they make their way beneath the Adelaide sign. This is the OTR Super Sprint. We're at the bend. The third of 3 races at this location in Tailem Bend this weekend, and the first time, despite the threats earlier, that we've actually got wet conditions. It was forecast to arrive much earlier in the day with the possibility of some pretty wild storms, and it arrived just prior to the race. Now they're laying up in readiness for Mark Winterbottom down there. We're on top of it with Dizzy Cam. Job done. Now the other thing to bear in mind in these conditions, and we saw it last year, that pit lane with the concrete surface, by comparison to the racetrack surface, is so slippery. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody overshoot or a little error trying to pull up.
Fastest car now is Brodie Kostecki, so Will Brown's teammate has done an 8.7. That's almost a second faster than Cam Waters in the previous lap.
Flag car 56.
Jake Kostecki's got something happening with that car, so a mechanical black flag for that vehicle. Now this is the other thing, some people are also going to have the typical vision woes. They no longer have the filament heaters in the screen. It's a polycarbonate screen in these cars. They've got tear-offs on them, and they've got an anti-fog film on the screens as well. But when you're inside these cars and you've got such an incredible amount of temperature coming from underneath the floor of the car and the firewall and the exhaust system, you've got the transaxle in behind, there's heat everywhere. You can't make horsepower without making heat. So often, and this car doesn't actually look too bad, but often you'll get into different cars in these conditions and it's like staring out from the inside of a fish shop window. It's just wet and horrible. You can't see anything.
Yeah, very true. David Reynolds up 13 positions too. I didn't say that before when I was going down the totem, Garth.
Given the lateness of how this rain came, a lot of the teams wouldn't have had time to get the lights onto the inside of those plastic polycarbonate windscreens. So that's why we're seeing so many cars struggling with vision. Some teams may have predicted the rain and got it on there before they went to the grid. A lot of teams were scrambling while they were out there changing those tyres and getting ready for the rain.
And speaking of vision, Zach Best is shown in pit lane right now, and they have pulled that car out of the race. The windscreen wiper isn't working. The wiper motor has failed, and they've decided to park up Zach Best in these conditions. No wiper, no play.
Yeah, smart call. Be very easy to damage $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 worth of race car in these conditions. Now, Scott Pye's come into the pit lane. Fastest lap of the race now belongs to Will Davison at 2:08.4. They're a long way from those wet, I beg your pardon, the dry lap times that we saw. So this is the Newell entry of Scott Pye. There was a little bit of damage on that car in the last one. Check out the wheel spin as he tries to drive that off. Even with the pit lane speed limiter engaged and the 40k limit, it's still hard to walk the car away.
And one of the real things about understanding the grip level, because to your point, by now the drivers are up to speed, have been able to understand where the grip lies, whether you run a wide line, a narrow line, wherever the really bad areas of curb usage, for instance, it's all important. But when you put a fresh new tyre on the back, it changes completely again.
Shane keeps on hunting high and low, up and around. He's searching for grip. He's looking for anything that will give him a turning or drive advantage. So he's going to come up on the outside here in a somewhat awkward position at turn 14. He'll look to undercut, and he does. He tries to stick the nose down here before he gets to 15. So far, so good. The two of them have been oh so close, but there's been no ugly contact. Gentle fanning of the throttle as Cam tries to find traction against that wet tyre. He locked the brake, he's run wide, he locked the inside front, and that's an invitation for Shane. Now, he managed to keep it on the racetrack critically, but we saw it bobble and knew exactly what was going on. You saw that it was ploughing, he released the brake to get the steering back and drops a spot in the process.
So what Cam's going to do now, don't go out there, this little mistake was one of the ones where Van Gisbergen's been using that tram track. He's been using the tyre track of the car in front. Little mistake there. All of a sudden he has to go out onto the smooth, shiny section, and he was able to get away with it.
So the fact that he's got things all nice and calmly under control at the moment is an awfully good start.
Marauders.
He ran a little wide there, just right in the middle of the corner. He just had a little bit of mid-corner understeer that lost him some margin. He's back to 0.5 of a second to Brody, who on the last lap had a personal best in second one.
Okay, because, you know, rears are the things that are starting to go.
Now, some fresh air will benefit Cam Waters here as well. And in the middle sector of the last lap, he did a personal best. Checking that margin again.
This moves on again this time. This moves on down here for Kostecki, so Thomas will have to have a look in the mirror. Brody will do this big dive bomb move again, and he covers him. Nicely done. Nicely done. He gives him a bump. 2 bumps, actually, but nicely covered, Thomas Randall.
Tiny little bit of Morse code on the rear bumper, and I'm sure he's already well aware of his presence. Was going to suggest, referring to that margin mark, it's still 41 seconds race leader to Brock Feeney. So on correction, Brock is well in this battle. But it's hard to take your eyes away from this at the moment, and the fact that the first two are getting together is drawing Mostert back into the play.
Yeah, so he'll have to be careful, because if Brody puts an aggressive move on that doesn't come off, Mostert will take it from him. So it's one of those ones when you're in the sandwich like that with the two Mustangs first and third, that you've got to be careful when you do make the move that it absolutely sticks.
Meantime, Waters is getting closer. He's 1.7 from the lead. He's had a couple of wins and a couple of pole positions at this location. There he is in the background.
Oh, here we go.
Has he got him? Has he got him? Yes. Nice job. Brody Kostecki was able to get it down the inside. Watch out for Mostert. He's aggressive here in position 3 as well. Oh, Randall and Mostert peel off together. Can you believe that?
Gee, they did a good job then not to make contact there, Thomas.
At the margin.
Oh, huh? How was that?
At the margin. That was nail-biting on the run into the pit lane. Brody Kostecki's now got the lead. Can he make an advantage from some fresh air? He's got 1.2 seconds over Cam Waters, and it's a further 1.2 back to Van Gisbergen. Randall, Mostert, Payne, Jones, all in.
And the Feeney rejoin will be the key. Remember, 41 seconds is what that number was.
Gee, that was quick. That looked very speedy.
Has he got him? He's got him.
Okay, buddy. Race got an exit. You're going to have 40 Hazelwood and
Tight. So tight on exit then. There's Brock in the background. This is looming to be a beauty. We've got 9 laps remaining. We've still got a pile of people to take their stop. And how about the pressure on this young man at the moment? So Thomas Randall has got it all going on with Chaz Mostert niggling away at the back of him at the moment, trying to find a way round, exchanging some vinyl in the process. And he'll have a lunge when they get down here through this fast left-hander at 5 on cold tyres. That's going to be a gigantic handful. And then they'll all have a think about what could be done down here in the left-hander. But has Randall got them covered? Look at Feeney up on the outside. If he can make that stick, he gets priority as they go to the right hand further down the hill. Doesn't quite work. And Courtney sitting in here as well.
What a great exchange. Really high quality driving there between Thomas Randall and Chaz Mostert. And then the dive down the outside for Brock Feeney. It looks like it was an attempt to be on the outside and then get down the inside for the following set of right-handers. But he wasn't able to just stay there and have the overlap on the exit of turn 6. And that's now worked. And remember, we've still got Brodie Kostecki now. Waters and Van Gisbergen in now. So Kostecki leads, Waters and Van Gisbergen in the pit.
And Percat. And it was about 39 seconds from the leader to the first in the queue that stopped. So this is boiling up to be a very tight battle at the back end. We've got 8 laps remaining. We've still got Brodie to take his stop. What card will they play? How consistent are they going to be? Waters, critical stop. Rears only. Little bit tardy on the departure. And push is the word in the background. Van Gisbergen departs as well. Here comes the angry pack. Kostecki's our leader from Winterbottom, who's had a difficult day. Randall ducks to the inside of his teammate to try and make a gain cleanly. And look at Waters trying to squeeze some space from Mostert, but there was nowhere to go. He couldn't park it into the air gap.
Now, the gap from Kostecki to Randall is 39.8 seconds. That's the key to this motor race right now. We've got a battle for the people that have effectively done the first pit stop. The man that hasn't made a stop yet is right on that number that we've spoken about, the 40-second margin.
It's going to bubble into being a real nail-biter when Erebus decide to take their stop. And there'll be so much pressure on that crew to execute perfectly. And they're compelled now to do 2. There can't be anything fancy about it. Diminishing laps, they're laying up, they're getting ready. And this has got to be all time from this gang. Young Thomas Randall is putting on a classy performance here for us today. 27 years of age, from Melbourne, making good on the promise that we saw last year, and in comes our race leader, Brodie Kostecki. Remember, it was 39.8 seconds was the margin. We'll look for the rejoin.
Will be closest range on the way out.
Very impressive display so far today for Thomas Randall. Huge pressure on him from Kostecki prior, and then Mostert now. Here's the stop.
Go, clear.
Look pretty nice.
Nice job. So where does he blend in? Has he done enough on the in-lap? And actually pulling up on the spot and then rattling those wheels and tyres on and then flicking off the limiter to get out and depart and be in command. How close is it going to be? The answer to the question is very, very close. And he's got cold tyres and he's going to be assaulted by Thomas Randall. So for the moment, Kostecki has control. Just. But what a great snapshot between Kostecki and the Camaro. Randall in the Mustang, who has a look up on the inside, and Mostert has got some urgency about him as well.
Mostert tried to move Randall wide there because he knows that this is the only time, in terms of Kostecki being vulnerable, it's right now with the cold rear tyre. Mostert having a massive lunge down the inside.
Randall holds his ground, gets fed a little bit wide in the process, drops a spot. He was actually in the dirt.
Freaking push off the track, I don't know what is.
Thomas not happy on the radio in the background, as you'd expect, but they are playing for keeps. Kostecki's got control. He's got a fistful of car lengths at the moment over Mostert, who's well incentivised. And then Randall's angry. He'll want revenge from that. And tucked in behind them is Waters. Brock Feeney lurking in the background together with his teammate Shane Van Gisbergen. James Courtney, an all-time recovery from a spin and damage this morning. Then Heimgartner and Payne.
That was a big move by Mostert down the inside. But there'll be a bit of chat between the 4 teams there as to what happened out of turn 6 up to turn 7. And Thomas Randall blowing up on the radio about being forced off the road. So check this dive out. Big, bold move. And then right there, Thomas is now going, I'm going to stay on the outside and be on the inside for the next corner. And a little shove, little movement there. And on board, there's the proximity. Little bump, and then there'll be another one right there.
And that was enough just to push him slightly off to the right of the track, and we saw the dust come up. And here's the view from car number 25. That's Randall in the foreground. Here's the dive. Contact. And actually, it was because it was also in second gear and had wheel spin and slid out the other side. Raymond Lau responds, not happy with that, drops a spot in the process. Emotion in the garage.
Here we go. Pressure on at the lead here between Best and Van Gisbergen. So we're about to see how Zach fares for racecraft here against one of the mightiest in the world. Out of the final corner. So the challenge for Will Davison is to keep the show rolling and at the same time strategically make ground on those that he's racing, having pulled in really early.
I'm interested. I thought Dylan Talabani may have taken Zach out of the drama here. Van Gisbergen now, ultimate pressure for the young 20-year-old Victorian. Dylan Talabani down the bottom looking on as his young charger leading the race. Andrew Edwards, Mark Dutton, top of screen, guiding Shane Van Gisbergen, and a lock break and a run wide. He's made his own mistake. You've been talking about it all weekend. That was a mistake by Zach Best. Down at turn 6.
And Shane will just keep sweating on him. One thing that we see from the seasoned runners like Van Gisbergen, like Waters, like Di Pasquale, they don't blink. They're machine-like in their consistency, and so they'll be applying this pressure to Zach at the moment. But it's a great lesson for him, and so far so good. He's still the race leader despite that little error. Now Oscar's come back and told me it was 3.5 seconds behind the race lead for Davison when he stopped. If you do a quick calc at the moment, knowing what we said in the Hino Hub, we said it's roughly 38 seconds plus the time it takes to stop. At the moment, Will Davison's 40.8 seconds from the lead. So he's right in corrected contention for the lead of this motor race at the moment. So if you said that they were going to do a 3-second stop and things were good, because a 3 to 3.5 second stop is as good as we typically see, that's 41 seconds-ish, maybe 41 to 42. There's a little bit of fine print in this.
Yep.
And at the moment, he's 40.6 seconds behind the lead, Will Davison.
And the longer that these guys run, the better it looks to begin with for Will Davison. The problem is, it comes back and bites you later on.
He's such a party pooper. You know, selling that story so hard. And then, you know, he's just let all the air out of my balloons, folks. So 0.2 of a second Best over Van Gisbergen. He's right on him now. Now it's got nothing to do with lap time. It's all about car positioning and being able to operate all three of these guys under extreme pressure, watching each other like hawks, and Waters as well in this at the moment. That's just the perfect corner for these cars. He's going to have a lunge, thought about it. Used another gear to help stop it, and then pulled it out of it halfway, Cam Waters. But he rushed at that corner. Listen to the partial throttle down here. And all that hesitation, all that throttle paddling that you're hearing is waiting for the front of the car to secure, to be able to give him the grip back in the palms of his hands. Meantime, that little lunge has cost Cam, and it's allowed Shane to concentrate again on attacking the back of Zach. So look at that margin that's opened up between 97 and 6 on that lap. Here we go. So
Van Gisbergen stalking now, hiding under the rear wing, looking for an opportunity.
Teams, 15-second time penalty to car 9 for an unsafe release.
Will Brown, unsafe release out of the pit lane. And it was a 3.5 second stop. So that'll be bad news, unfortunately, in the Boost Mobile garage. So a little bit of rubber debris bouncing onto the screen of Van Gisbergen's car. The car looks really strong on the run in and across the face of the corner of Van Gisbergen.
There you go, that's a good move. That's a really good move, Cam Waters. Yeah, that's clever. Because he's fired in, he's going to do the undercut now on Van Gisbergen and Best. I think that will serve him well.
And do they react now at Red Bull? Are they going to worry about Zach, or are they racing Cam Waters? Got him, he's got him down the inside. Meantime, I want to check the margins. It's 39.5 seconds now, back to Will Davison.
He won't be able to mess around here with Van Gisbergen, and he doesn't. Nice move. Well-constructed pass. Van Gisbergen now tries to bat back on with it. He's on the wrong side of the road now, Jack. Can they come on there together? He's running wide. So Fabian's the real beneficiary here.
And Fabian's tyres look to be in pretty good shape. And moves it across once again. Well, Shane's having a real battle here, grip-wise, and Jack just got himself in an awkward position there. Up on the outside, copped a whack in the process, and ended up with a run through the dirt for his troubles. Now, meantime, McLaughlin's moved up on Heimgartner up to 6th. This is far from resolved with just 6 laps remaining. So Van Gisbergen has got the lead, but he is hanging on by a fingernail at the moment. And you can see by the way in which this car is sliding all over the road, it's diminishing returns for him. But the terrier in him is not relinquishing the lead. He is not giving up. Meantime, Holdsworth is getting into the middle of this as well. So Van Gisbergen, Coulthard, LeBrock, Holdsworth.
And we're hearing that there wasn't any drama with the Tickford tyres. So we're hearing that they're in better shape. Now, when you talk about Terrier, Jack LeBrock needs a dose of it now because he needs to get back on. He got his ears boxed a minute ago. Got to get back on and get down the inside again.
Now, what's happening at the front is drawing everybody else in here as well.
Yep.
And it's a 5K track. There's 6 laps remaining. There's a lot of racing to come here, so expect to see Fullwood, McLaughlin, Heimgartner a chance to join this party as well. This is going to go down to the wire. LeBrock is back in touch now with Fabian. That's the strongest of the top 3 cars at the moment, car number 55 for Super Cheap Auto and Tickford.
It is.
And you've got his teammate right behind in Lee Holdsworth, and he won't need much incentive to get in here either.
So Jack's got to concentrate on getting a run to the straight here now. He's had really good pace. The mid-corner speed's been really good. And he didn't come on there any better than Fabian on that occasion. Very similar.
You guys did a great job. Clear those reasons.
Yeah. Good coaxing, but he really needs to make sure that he follows Fabian through. If Fabian can get down the inside, needs to position himself appropriately to get the move made on Van Gisbergen. Here it is. So he went up the outside. He tried to do the crisscross. It didn't work. But what it did is it forced Van Gisbergen into an arrival at turn 15 a bit faster than he should have been. So then he fires down the inside. This is a nice move. But what he doesn't count for is the Van Gisbergen effect of not giving up. He turns back the other way, does the reverse crisscross, and he's back down the inside. And then as they turn into the final corner, he's got nowhere to go other than rallycross. A little hip and shoulder, out there and over.
And he's a hard, tough racer, Van Gisbergen. He's not going to give you 1 millimetre. Now, interesting, while you were looking at that replay, Mark, I checked the speed of the top 6. McLaughlin's in the high 51s. These guys are racing in the mid-53s at the moment.
There he is.
So he's right in this battle. And the other guy that's quick in the 52s was Lee Holdsworth. Right, so the 3 at the front are all doing the same pace at the moment, but it's having the effect of dragging everybody else in as Jack has a look. That's an awkward spot there as well on the run into the left-hander at 14. Van Gisbergen's doing a miracle job here of keeping this thing on the road. You can see it sliding all over the place as we go back on board with Jack LeBrock, position number 3.
So the heat stress of the rear tyre on Van Gisbergen's car is starting to smash him. We've seen over the last 4 or 5 laps being monstered by LeBrock and now Fabian. He's trying to drive it as straight as he possibly can. There's a little bit of oversteer. He had a little bit of a moment right near the end of the corner then. So radio contact there with Grant McPherson. Here we go.
Chases him around the road a bit more. Van Gisbergen has the right to cover once going into that first corner. Holdsworth is totally in touch with this group now. Fabian's vastly experienced 200th event this weekend, and he might be on target for a win. Or can Jack LeBrock pick up a second victory in 2020? And can Shane Van Gisbergen march on from where he left off at Townsville? Holdsworth's been in search of victory this year. And McLaughlin is now only 2.2 seconds from the lead of the motor race after having contact with Whincup. There he is in the background.
Remarkable drive back. Great job, Scott McLaughlin. So this is going to have a big impact on the championship. Oh, he had to brush the brake then. Lucky's a left foot braker. Fabian had to bump the brake because he was going to, on the overrun in the middle of turn 9 to 10, he was going to bump Van Gisbergen.
So he's a cork in the bottle at the moment, Shane Van Gisbergen. There's a great trail of cars building up behind him, but he's not making mistakes. He's driving every last little millimetre out of that car at the moment, and he's going to fight back even if he gets out of position like we saw on the replay a few moments ago. So Van Gisbergen clinging to everything here in search of 100 points. He's 5th in the championship. He's looking for a build. You've got Coulthard tucked in behind, then LeBrock, then Holdsworth. You've got Forward in here as well, and McLaughlin. There is nothing across that group of cars. There they are, and McLaughlin continues to march ahead.
Just pass Forward there, yep.
There he is.
So he's wide this time. He's wide this time. You've got to do this now, Fabian. So the deal is, he's got to get down the outside under brakes and try to crisscross enough to get down the inside at 3. So can he position the car appropriately to lunge right now down there? No, he can't quite.
You've got a Red Bull Holden from 888 Race Engineering. You've got a Shell Mustang from Dick Johnson Racing Team Penske. You've got a Tickford car for Super Cheap and Jack LeBrock. There's nothing in this. We've got 3 laps remaining at the bend. And check out the margins. McLaughlin is pulling a miracle together here, and down the inside, firing. Car 55 is LeBrock, and he's gone down the inside and bombed Coulthard.
Good move.
He's back in the game here and about to apply pressure to Van Gisbergen.
Right, now get on with it now, Jack, because you've got to make sure that if you get down the inside, you make this stick. He's had great pace. This, to me, is the first time, other than Cam Waters torturing Scott McLaughlin over the last couple of race meetings, this is the first time we've seen the Tickford cars genuinely in the battle.
So what they've got in geometry is working beautifully. They've got a quick car at the moment, and have a go at this. You've got McLaughlin now putting a move on Holdsworth. So McLaughlin might even get back to a podium if this unfolds his way. Look, dives down the inside. Does he get him? He's side by side. He's made contact with Lee Holdsworth. That could cost him a penalty if it wasn't clean. Holdsworth pointing the wrong way. It's been a wild race in South Australia this afternoon. We hope you're enjoying it at home. And hanging on by the barest of margins at the moment is Van Gisbergen. LeBrock's in the nowhere zone again. He drops it back into 3rd spot.
Yeah, on the outside, mate.
You don't.
Come on.
Look at this. Here we go. Now Coulthard's got a run on him. This might be it for Shane Van Gisbergen. He might need to surrender this time. So Fabian Coulthard, his 200th event this weekend, gets down the inside and potentially leads this race.
So Scotty McLaughlin might be in the same circumstance as Jamie Whincup, so this is going to have a big impact. He gets down the inside, Jack LeBrock. So Fabian's through, LeBrock's through, but Jack LeBrock was never going to be able to drive around the outside. Scott McLaughlin now sets up a move down at turn 6 on Van Gisbergen. Not quite close enough.
And there's a chance to be a bit of niggle here, because there was contact between these two at turn 11 at Townsville on Sunday. So Fabian Coulthard's got 0.6 of a second at the moment over Jack LeBrock. What a race at the bend. Introduce a little bit of tyre deck. People have got different settings. Bit of ag on the racetrack, and away you go. Here we go, we're back with Scotty. He's putting huge pressure on the back of the ailing Van Gisbergen. The headlights are on. He tries to get down the inside. Van Gisbergen tries to move him across. Is he down the inside cleanly? He's done it nicely. Shane hasn't got much to respond with at the moment. That's another move, but there's a cloud over McLaughlin based on what happened with Holdsworth. Oh, contact between Forward and Van Gisbergen. It's all unfolding here, and now Shane's really starting to battle. Those tyres have seen their best. Andre Heimgartner now starts to assault him down the inside and gets it done. Rick Kelly in here as well. And Cam Waters trying to make ground. Is Cam getting up the inside? Yes.
Well, he's lost 3 spots there. Those rear tyres on Van Gisbergen's car are going to be destroyed. It's been a valiant effort by Van Gisbergen, an incredible effort. Now, can Jack LeBrock finally make a move here because he's had the best pace? He's just parked it in the wrong spot in 2 occasions.
That question's going to be answered in 4.95 kilometres. We've got 1 lap remaining. They're watching in both garages at Shell V-Power Racing and Supercheap Auto Racing. Jack LeBrock has had tremendous pace this afternoon. The Tickford car working beautifully. So it's Coulthard over LeBrock, over McLaughlin with the question mark. Then it's Forward, Heimgartner, Waters. Van Gisbergen, who was vying for a race win, is now sitting in 9th position. Coming up to 2/3 of a lap remaining. Fabian's still got control of this at the moment.
Control to all personnel, 15-second time penalty, car 17 for a driving infringement.
Driving infringement, 15 seconds for McLaughlin based on what happened with Holdsworth. Where's that going to put him, Mark?
That takes him down. It'll put him around Reynolds and Goddard in 15th or 16th, which is only 3 spots in front of Whincup.
What an afternoon. Last win for Fabian Coulthard, 2019, race 11, Western Australia. He's within spitting distance. 7th in the championship, up 2 spots after the last run at Townsville. He's never had a podium at Tailem Bend. He might just get one today. 200th event. Jack LeBrock's done a mighty job though. He's only 0.6 of a second behind. He's just found himself in the wrong spot on a couple of occasions, and he's been given a bit of a lesson by the wiser heads. But this has been a beautiful drive this afternoon. Stunning performance and a checkered flag. Well done, 100 points. Fabian Coulthard